There is an object hidden in the sky. Our predecessors studied its appearances. Like a vast clockwork apparatus, it appeared on a fixed timeline and disappeared whole civilizations. They have left us records of this invisible eye in the sky and how they hid underground from its face. They feared the return of the Phoenix. Originally, there were 2 suns in the sky and no moon. But something happened. The death of a sun. It was the Nemesis Cataclysm in 5239 BC. This event gave rise to an ancient calendrical system, the Anunnaki Ner periods, or Great Year, of 600 years. This involved the passage of epochs that were exactly 216,000 turnings of the stars each, or days. 2 Ner periods after the Nemesis Cataclysm was 432,000 turnings of the stars, or 1,200 years, when suddenly the moon appeared in the sky in 4039 BC. This event was the capture of Luna, called by some as the capture flood. Humans on the surface suffered a terrible cataclysm. Old traditions tell us of cultures in antiquity that referred to themselves as pre-Selenites, or people who lived before the moon appeared. Humans rebuilt, but a far worse destruction unfolded at the appearance of the Phoenix. This was the Genesis 1 reset pole shift that was so destructive that the survivors believed it began a new heavens and new earth. And later chronographers used this event in 3895 BC as year 1 of the pre-flood calendar. Thus, the Anno Mundi calendar is likewise the Phoenix calendar, this strange visitor being referred to as a fiery flaming sword which prevents mankind's return to the Edenic state by a repetitive series of destructive resets and edits. The fall of man was not a fall into sin, but a cataclysmic pole shift and the fall of man's infrastructure. Then 216,000 turnings of the stars after the appearance of the moon, the Nemesis X object appeared in the sky in 3439 BC and caused the Gihon flood. A third of the human race is drowned, and in the aftermath, a benefactor appeared among Neolithic survivors, leading a troop of men who were technologically advanced and which made them appear godlike. This was the appearance of Homo Annuna. Later in Babylonia, after the flood, they were called the Anunnaki. This began the Technolithic period. The Sumerian sexagesimal system, adopted by many ancient cultures of the 60 and 600 year periods, or great years, was a day count system, diurnal, and sky watchers counted the turnings of the stars around the pole star to determine each day. The original Olmec calendar was constructed of days, as was the Mayan long count Bactans. The 216,000, 432,000, and 864,000 turnings of the stars was the original Vedic counting system as well. The 13 Bactans of the Mayan long count began from a destructive event in 3113 BC that began a 1,872,000 day countdown, or 13 Bactans of 144,000 days each, to a future destruction of North America that will happen in 2046. The Mayan Temple of the Cross and the Sumerian systems were all day count calendars. The Great Pyramid of Giza construction at the site called Akuzan was finished in the year 2815 BC by the culture who opposed the 7 kings of the Sumerian king list, who ruled 241,200 shars, or turnings of the stars, a period that is only 670 years by the Sumerian factoring of 360 days a year. These were the Dragon Kings, according to the Chinese. The pyramid was believed to possess a secret about the future fate of humankind, to provide humanity an escape or exodus to a better place. Suddenly, the Anuna made their exodus before the cataclysm that began the post-Technolithic period, also called the abandonment and shock period. The more primitive cultures left behind, they built sky-facing monuments in gigantic patterns with prayers and messages in geometry facing the sky so the Anuna would come back down and live among them again. But the Anuna had deceived the people that they had returned to the moon when in fact they were living in deep earth biospheres awaiting the coming Phoenix destruction, an object known to them as the Apen. The power vacuum gave rise to the Nephilim dynasty, or Pentapolis of the Seven Kings, that was then destroyed in the 670th year, or 2239 BC, by the Phoenix that caused the Great Flood. This was the 1656th year of the Book of Genesis, or the antediluvian world, and it was 432,000 turnings of the stars since the appearance of the Anuna and Enki in 3439 BC, or just 1,200 years. In May 2239 BC, the whole sky fractured like glass as iceberg-sized pieces fell upon the world, followed by weeks of torrential rains. The sky fell and caused the Great Flood as the vapor canopy collapsed. Megafauna and large reptiles, amphibians, and their tropical worlds perished as the atmospheric pressure dropped and the air became thin and unbreathable to larger life forms. The moisture of the collapsing vapor canopy deluged the tropics. But at the Arctic and Antarctic, then the sudden drop in temperature buried these regions in packed ice and thousands of feet of permafrost and snow, perfectly preserving hundreds of millions of plants and megafauna in icy tombs. The ancients referred to this as the birth of the sun, survivors initiating the sun calendar system now that the vapor canopy had been removed and the full sky could be seen. As Sumerian culture faded toward their end, they introduced a new god, Utu, the sun, in the same way the Egyptians introduced Horus, the son of the sun, long after the other gods of Egypt were well established. The Heliolithic period followed, named after the shift in calendars from stellar to solar. Men built massive cities and now took with them a memory of the importance of the pyramid, knowing the pyramid had something to do with saving humanity at a future date. They built pyramids in all the cities in which they migrated. And with them they preserved a knowledge of the destroyer, or the phoenix, called the Pin deity, the Apen, Phoenix, Typhon, the Sky Dragon, the Feng, and Fenrir. After the cataclysm, the survivors recovered and built cities in the Near East. In over 350 years since the Phoenix collapsed the vapor canopy, the Nemesis X object appeared and laid waste to the Sumerian and Akkadian cities, leaving Babylon as the central power of the Near East and melting the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adma, Zeboam, as well as Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. In these days, the Nemesis X object was called Tiamat, a dark dragon goddess of destruction. Almost instantly after this destruction, a sophisticated people from the West called the Amuru appeared and took over the government of Babylon, the whole Near East, setting up their dynasties in Hatti, Mari of Mitanni, across Syria, Lebanon, Urartu, founding Ugarit, Byblos, ruling Canaan, and settling in northern Egypt around the ancient Great Pyramid that was half buried in sands from its flooding by the Mediterranean when the vapor canopy collapsed. These were the shepherd kings, and they mapped the world. They built ports and quays and wharfs all over the known ancient world. These were the Westerners in cuneiform text called the Amuru, who were the world ruling power during the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. Their vast intercontinental trade empire came to a sudden end in May 1687 BC, when the phoenix again appeared, remembered as the Ogygian flood. All of the sons of the sun dynasties fell as the world suffered a 25-year darkness as a new vapor canopy struggled to reappear. These immense destructions in 5239 BC, 4039, 3895, 3439, 2239, 1849, and 1687 BC are the hammerings of both Phoenix and the Nemesis X object as they take turns visiting our world with catastrophic results. All knowledge of the ancient world has passed through these destructive episodes and has been preserved by survivors that have left us memories through traditions, monuments, and ancient texts. In Archaics, this history is not only put together but demonstrated chronologically. These dates are not arbitrary, but are shown in meticulous charts and published books and videos to be an intricate and perfect mathematical construct, clearly revealing that both the Phoenix and Nemesis X will play a role in the near future in the years 2040 to 2046 in reshaping our world. To comprehend what is about to happen, one must understand that prophecies are actually historical statements written by survivors in retrospect. The end of a thing always refers to its beginning. It is of paramount import in understanding the events of the ancient world. We must use the calendrical systems that were employed by those cultures. Doing anything otherwise completely has us mistranslating the very events that they were trying to warn us about.